love? If it was, am I living it? Do I live in it? So astounding. Love is an ocean, you can drown me. The sweet embrace, the lovely taste, I taste and see. I'm under grace, the place to be. It means I'll never need an umbrella. I'm cool in the cold, in the hot weather. Whether or never I ever understand, I'm a man in the hands of great plans. I stand with faith there in a life I never known to touch. And still outside my clutch, but I'm like, what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? Live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'm a living, I'ma live it to death. So what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? And live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'm a living, I'ma live it to death. Yeah.
So when Chris did that announcement about Parents Night Out, I heard a couple of y'all super pumped about that. My favorite time that was ever announced was actually when we were at Ocean Lakes High School. Before we ever had this building and space and all that, when we renovated it. And Dan Pollard, our adult ministries pastor, got up and he was like, yeah, and announced this whole thing. And he's like, so for some of you parents, you don't get away from your kids. And so he said, our kids are grown. He said, but I know what I would do if it was just me and my wife and we had 3 hours. And so then I got up to do my sermon, and I asked Dan in front of everybody, so what are you going to do with the other 2 hours and 57 minutes that you have? And it's still funny years later. So enjoy that night out. Do whatever you need to do. It's fun, man. It's really cool that our student ministry and our teams that go on mission trips are able to provide those opportunities, because not only are we out in the community doing things to serve our community, but we also want to help you. There's moments that you just need that breath, that moment to just go, whew. And that's what this series that we're starting is all about. This 4 weeks of teaching. I would say if you're brand new with us, or if you've been at Forefront for a while, maybe what you need to do is give God 4 weeks. I know sometimes with schedules and things, you just go, man, we're at a ball practice this time or a game this time. What if for 4 weeks you said, God, I want to see what it's like to not only learn the precepts of living under this umbrella of your love, your grace, your guidance, but I want to put that into practice. And we're going to have the chance to see that not just from myself, but also from Dan Pollard, our adult ministries pastor. Becky Bruner, who heads up all of our family and children's ministries, is going to be sharing during this series as well. And so for you to be able to hear these other perspectives of what does it mean to honor God in life, to embrace that this is living beauty that God has given you and I. Now, for some of us, we just go, man, this is living would mean if I could just pay all my bills and have just a little bit of money at the end of the month, that's living. For others of us, we go, no, I need to be able to have the right job and the right setup and the right car and these things, and that for me is going to be living. Or maybe you've watched and what you see in media and on music videos and whatever else, you're like, man, if I can make it rain, that would be living right there. And I don't know where you're at. Maybe for you, that rock and roll lifestyle would be your dream of living. But there is something about this, about what God has designed, that absolutely paints this beautiful picture of what it means to live and do life, not only with Him, but with other people, which can sound super scary and intimidating. And we're going to be diving into that over the next 4 weeks. And today kind of begins to build on that. And you are, whether you're brand new to faith or you've been a part of this a while, the precept we're going to talk about today, I'm willing to venture that 100% of us, this isn't a foreign idea to us. Because we've read about it if we've ever been engaged in a Tolkien novel, in diving into the stories of things like The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. Maybe we've even seen it if we've been a part of the Harry Potter series. Or maybe you're a big fan of and geek out like I do over Star Wars. Oh, Star Wars. And you go, man, and in every one of these narratives and these stories, and it's nothing new that we see, there's this tension, this battle between light and dark, this movement between what is true and beautiful, and then these things that just seem to be hurtful and don't make a lot of sense to us, and yet we're somehow drawn to them. And where does that come from? Where did that start? And I would contend that all of those stories, all of that stuff that we consume, that we love, that we pine for, whether we're reading it in a book or we're watching it on a screen or watching it acted out on a stage. Those precepts, those ideas of light and dark have an origin, and it doesn't start with those stories. You see, they were inspired by the very narrative and what takes place that God knit together. And if you have a Bible, I'd love for you to open up, because we're going to jump right in over in 1 John chapter 1. It's in the New Testament of the Bible. And if you don't have a Bible, there's two ways to get one, and both of them are our Get Connected table. You could stop by the physical Get Connected table and pick up a hard copy of the Bible today in the lobby. Just stop by there. There's no catch. You don't even have to fill out anything. We believe everybody needs an easy-to-read translation of the Bible, or you can stop by our digital Get Connected table at forefrontchurch.info, so you don't even have to get up right now. And under the Bible tab, there's two different ways to download a digital Bible app and our Forefront Church app that has a Bible integrated in and all the notes today. We give away all those resources for free because we want every single person to have an easy-to-read translation of the Bible so that you can engage your faith more than just our time together. And we believe if you're able to do that and you have those tools around, you're more apt to be able to grow in your faith. And that's what this whole idea in 1 John is all about. And if you don't have a Bible, totally fine. It's going to be on the screens as well. You guys ready? 1 John chapter 1, starting in verse 5. You good? Yeah, 5 of you good? The rest of you aren't quite sure? That's okay. We're going to go along anyway, so it really don't matter. All right. Verse 5 in 1 John chapter 1. This is the message we have heard from him and declare to you. God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. If we claim to have fellowship with him, and now fellowship is a fancy and kind of churchy word. Fellowship isn't one of those things when you go to your workplace and you're like, hey, Susie, you want to go fellowship? Like, that's not something you normally hear. Like, hey, John, I know we need to take a break at the work site here. How about we do some fellowship? Like, that's not what we normally hear, okay? And so when we read words like this, that's why when people say, like, the Bible's not weird at all. No, the Bible's sometimes kind of weird. And when we read these words, this is a churchy, Christianese way of saying, if we claim to have connection with God, if we claim to have a friendship, a bond with God, and yet we walk in darkness, we lie and do not live out the truth. But if we walk in the light, as if we walk with God, and he is in the light, there's that fellowship word again, we have connection with one another. And then it gets into the blood of Jesus, the Son who gave his sacrifice. Now, we talked about this. We talk about Jesus every week because he is the linchpin of faith. Without him, none of it would be possible, none of it would be worth it. Because he came as the Son of God, lived a perfect life and died so that you and I could be free. Now, if you're here and you're just like, man, I'm still searching, I'm not sure about that yet, it's totally okay. You get a pass this morning. Here at Forefront Church, what we believe is that Jesus came, that he was the Son of God, that he came and that he gave his life so that you and I could be free. But he didn't just give his life, he gave his life and conquered death so that you and I in the same way could have life. And you'll learn that as we explore and as you continue to come back. And so this walking in light connects us with that redemption, that second chance. If we claim to be without sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, it means if we start talking about the fact that we all mess up, that we all make mistakes, that, well, we all fail at times. He is faithful and just and will forgive us of our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. Again, that's a long way of saying that God sent Jesus so that you and I could be free. And we say, listen, I have a messed up life at times, a lot of times. And man, I'm thankful that God saved me. God, I care about you. I love you. I want to walk this out with you. And he makes us new. He makes us whole again. If we claim we have not sinned, we make him out to be a liar, and his word is not in us. And basically saying that if you and I say, oh, I'm good, like those people that maybe you meet Maybe you're not that person, but you've thought about that, or you met somebody who goes, oh, I'm totally Christian, totally love Jesus, whatever. And then you look at their life and you go, I don't think your life matches up. Like, they don't love anyone. They go, yeah, I love Jesus, and then they're just mean to everyone. Or, man, I love Jesus, but then there's these things that you see in their life, you go, I don't know if that really matches up. What that last verse is saying is, listen, that you're not living out the very thing that you say that you're going to be about, which is the huge criticism of people that don't claim faith yet. They go, look at Christians, they're just a bunch of hypocrites. And I go, yeah, Christians are hypocrites, but what the beauty of that is, even as we claim faith, if we walk with him, yeah, we're all going to make mistakes. I'm going to fail, you're going to fail, but the beauty of walking with Jesus, we have that hope, walking in the light. But the fear is, for someone who is in faith, even for the person that hasn't yet claimed faith, is that what happens if, and we all have this to some varying degree, what happens if I take off this mask and reveal the things that are happening in my life? And maybe for you that mask is something not so heavy. Maybe it's just simply ego and pride. You just go, if I let people know that like I have this problem with me, like I just don't know what they'd think. I don't know what they'd say. Or maybe it's really heavy and you have hurt in your past and shame in your past. You go, if I open up and let people know that I hurt on the inside, I just don't know between God and Christians, because I've heard they're real judgmental, which is one of the things we try to fight back at every turn. It's just saying, listen, we all make mistakes, and so you talk about your stuff, I'm going to talk about mine, because this living in God means that we can be honest about the stuff that we're wrestling with. And what if we were able to create a safe place for people to live that life and take off the mask? To be able to say, you know what, here's kind of where I'm at. And while I'm scared to take this off, I want to let you know that I have this going on. Not too long ago, I saw this commercial that really illustrated this idea of hiding. And then when people, a community, when others give that person permission by embracing them, by loving them, to take off their mask. Why don't you guys check this out? Crying, you're crying. What if we were to create spaces for people to actually embrace the beauty and grace that God designed? That to live a life that no matter what is going on, that you and I could actually thrive in beauty and in joy in this life that God has given us. This beautiful life that we only get one of here in this life, what are we going to do with that? If we could just provide times, moments, and places for us to go, you know what? No matter what is happening in my life, I want to take off this mask and live freely as God designed me. See, because far too often, the fear of taking off the mask is, well, what happens if I take this off and open up? Because I don't know what will happen and what I'll replace it with. It's so people do begin to engage faith and open up a little, and they go, you know what? It just hasn't changed. Just nothing really feels like the wheels have really caught and started turning. And I love the way that Andy Stanley, who's a pastor in Georgia, puts it this way. In his book, It Came From Within, said it takes a habit to break a habit. You can pray every day for changes, but until you start acting in that direction, what changes? Nothing. Nothing changes. Until we go, you know what, as I take off the mask, that something has to replace this hurt, this shame, this habit, this void, and the only thing that can do that, no matter how much we want to try to fill that with other things, is the beauty and light and purpose of God. And so how do we begin to embrace that so this love, this hope, this joy begins to billow out of your life and mine? And just it's something that, and I'm not talking about the people that you encounter that have this like almost superficial joy. Because they're like, I follow Jesus, so I just got to be happy. And they're like, and we talk about the caricature that happens on The Simpsons with Ned Flanders. The show's been out for decades now. And Ned Flanders is that character, the hi-ho neighbor, how's it going? Beautiful day, oh glory, hallelujah, hi. And he does that thing and he wears it and everything seems perfect. But along the series, and if you've ever taken a chance to watch that, there's glimpses of total wreckage within the family that they totally glaze over. Now, we want to be able to walk in such a way that your joy and my joy will shine brightest when we put ourselves in a position to move and breathe and love within the light of God, because He begins to bring us and lift us to places that we never could have gone on our own. Now, don't hear me is saying in this that as soon as you experience God's light, that you're going to have a 6-figure job, that your health's going to be amazing, that you're going to have the house with the average 2.5 kids, with the white picket fence, and the dog named Spot, okay? That is not what I'm saying. Now, I know that there's people out there, and you may have watched them, whether it be on TV or whatever, that just smile really big and promise you the world if you follow Jesus. I'm not going to promise you that because that's not what God promises you. But whether you follow God or you don't, you will experience hardship. My choice, and what I hope will be your choice as we want to live this life, is that we choose God, knowing that His light will bring a joy even in the moments where things are hard. Now that's difficult to do, and I'm not going to promise you, the world and all these things, because like I sat in my driveway yesterday and had a conversation with a friend where like life is in shambles for my friend and things aren't going well. And they follow God, they go to church twice a week, and they pray every day, and life is still hard. But they're not down and out. There's still a glimpse of that joy that only God provides. You see, and this is our main idea. If you don't get anything else, I hope you get this, is that you and I, we are built for the light. But here's the rub. Here's where it's just not like, oh, we're built for the light. I got a golden ticket. I move in with God. Everything's fine. You see, you and I have and need to be, and we're built for the light, the beauty of God. But we have this weird bend towards darkness. Every single one of us. And this doesn't have to be taught. Hang out with a 2-year-old for any given amount of time, and you will see Immediately, no one had to teach them to be bad and naughty and all this stuff. They immediately are just like, no, whatever. And our 2-year-old, all of a sudden, has the vocabulary of a 35-year-old all of a sudden. Just telling us all kinds of stuff she ain't going to do. I'm like, who are you? You're not old enough to spank yet, and you won't understand timeout. We're like in this weird crux of like, how do I punish you? You're 2. Daddy, no. Daddy, timeout. You're going to please put me in timeout. You don't have to teach a 2-year-old that. You definitely don't have to teach a 35-year-old that. Or 65 or 85. Because while we're built for the light and beauty of God, every one of us has a free will choice and a bend to go, I love God. Ooh. God, I know you told me no, but man, that looks good. God, I know I want to follow you. Ooh. And some of those things aren't inherently bad, but after a while we make enough choices to things that are about us that we leave God behind and we go, why is my life so hard? Why do I have no hope? And God goes, because you've been making choices for you instead of walking with me and making choices that benefit others and not yourself. And that's hard. I'm not going to say that's easy, but it's beautiful when we walk in the light of God. Here, there's 3 excuses and things that go on in your mind and my mind, not in our heart. Don't ever trust your heart, all right? We talk about this. There's a series you can go back on our mobile app and through our website called Reject Your Heart. Your heart will lead you to all kinds of dumb things. It started in junior high school when you're like, that guy, that girl, they're so amazing. I just love them, whatever. And you went after them and they broke your heart. Why? Because your heart told you that was a good decision. It wasn't a good decision. Heart leads you all kinds of stuff. We really need that car. We can't afford that car. I know. It's like $55,000. What are we going to do? I don't know. There's this magic piece of plastic. We got a car. And then all of a sudden you get the bill. You're like, that was a bad idea, but my heart told me I needed it. Your heart's dumb. That's why it leads you to all kinds of, it leads you to debt. It leads you to all these things. It leads you to Taco Bell. It's dumb, okay? All right, so don't chase your heart. Your heart's fickle. Does all these things. If you work at Taco Bell, we still love you too. It's just what it does, all right? And so we have to be able, and there's this battle that goes on, and you've probably landed at one point in time, and if you haven't, you will, in one of 3 categories. The first one is, I'm good, I don't need God. I'm doing fine. Like, everything's fine. Like, I'm a good person. If you're in a relationship, maybe you're married, maybe you have a family, you go, my family's good, the house is good, I have a good job, I'm good. I don't need God. And what I'm reminded of, when I want everything to funnel through what God has for you and I. And so while I love people's opinions, at the end of the day, the only opinion that I want to matter most is what God says. And that's really hard because I love what I think. Like over here, I'm like, what I think is good. None of us sit in our head and go, man, what I think is really bad. Like most of us go, what, my opinion of this is totally right. You know how I know? Facebook comments section. Your Instagram, whatever the case may be, that's how you know everybody thinks they're right and none of us walk around going, man, everything I think is wrong. Maybe I should just, no, we think what's right. It's so when we go, my life's good, this is good, this is good, I don't need God. That's why I have to be reminded of when God orchestrates these verses through the writer Paul in the New Testament in Romans chapter 3, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And all are justified, made free, second chances, freely, by his grace through the redemption that came by Jesus. And so we may be good, but we're not whole. We may be good, but we're not holy. We may be good, but we're not under his grace because all of us, while no matter how good we might be, we are not perfect, and so we all make mistakes. And so I'm good, I don't need God is met with we're all sinful. It's why we need Jesus. But there's another thing that might battle and like rattle around in there as you're doing it. And I totally get this. Sat here for a little while. I definitely sat a third one for a long time. The second thing that might be is I'm bad. I can't be with God. I am too broken, hurt, ashamed, wounded. God can't help someone like me. And I totally get that. We live in a culture that shames people for the experiences that they've been through, the things that have happened, the way maybe someone had hurt you, or the choices that you made that led down a really hard road, and then people have called you certain things or said things about you, and then all of a sudden you just go, well, that must be my label, like Heather talked about early on in service. And so that's who I am. God can't love me. And we sit in just the last verse that we read, all have sinned and fallen short, we're all messed up, I'm awful, I'm the worst of them all. But not only does God love us and God send Jesus, I'm reminded in this passage again later on in the New Testament book of Romans, for who shall separate us? When we walk in the light, who shall separate us from the love of Jesus? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness, not sure why that's in there, or danger or sword? Like basically saying all these things. If you don't have clothes, if you don't have a job, if you don't have all the stuff, if you don't have things, if you have tribulation, you made bad choices. Nothing can separate, nothing that you've done, experienced, or been around or are around can separate you from Jesus. And so as we walk through this beautiful light, even though we have a bend for darkness, God goes, you know what, I love you. Even though you keep going to darkness, I love you and you are not too bad. But here's the tough one, and it's been embraced within Western culture, and it just begins to be on the rise. And this is where I sat milling around things like, New Age practice, Wiccan, Hinduism, all this stuff, kind of searching through, trying to figure this out. I'm smart, there is no God. And we label this through the lens of science. Now, I'm kind of a you need to show me kind of guy. Like if you come up, you're like, I caught a fish this big. I'm like, you either need a picture or a video. And even if you show me the video, I'm like, did you alter that in After Effects? Like, did you stretch that fish? Like, I'm that guy. And so if you're there, I totally get it. But here's the thing. When it comes to science only, and people of faith have like shunned science, which I don't get because all science does is complement what's already found in the foundation of the scripture. There's been no archaeological find, no tests done in a lab, or anything that's come forth that people go, oh man, the Bible's totally disproven. To the contrary, every discovery that's been made has actually, and there's tons of stuff, if you wrestle with this kind of thing, man, message me. I'd love to be able to help you get some books on this, that actually says that science and the Bible complement one another. And here's the thing with science. Every test and every hypothesis and all the studies that we've done to measure and serve and all this stuff, it's all based on what we created as a measuring tool as what will take place. And so everything that we've done is based on people that sat in a lab who are probably smarter than some of us, but are still human beings, men and women who came up with a formula to be able to test all this stuff. They're just people. And so maybe, just maybe, there's a God that's a little bit, if not exponentially smarter and greater than what we could have in our own understanding. And I'm reminded of this passage. And this is something I have to read a lot, mainly because when I mess up as a husband and as a father, as a pastor, I need to be reminded of these words. Whoever trusts in his own mind is a fool, but he who walks in wisdom will be delivered. That's why it's so important that we gather, that we talk, that we share, because this reminds us that it's not about us and that maybe we don't have all of the pieces together. That we all mess up, but that we're all found under God's grace. See, because one of the things that light does is it makes fear manageable. My daughters the other day, we have 3 daughters, 8, 6, and 2, and now the 2-year-old, because she's getting mouthy like a 35-year-old, well, I sent her to go get something out of our spare room. And I had just been in there, so I thought the blinds were open, and I thought that the light was still left on. Well, sure enough, I send her in there, and so I hear her go into the room, and it's pitch black. The blinds were down, and I turned the light off. And then I hear, Daddy dark, Daddy dark, Daddy dark, Daddy dark. I'm like, what, hey, whatever. And I'm like, and I'm like, Roxy, our 6-year-old, go with her, go find out. She's like, Daddy, blah. I'm like, go, do. And it's fine. And after a while, especially because we were dumb and we named them all Chloe, Roxy, Kinley, and so they all have the same ending sound. And so I'm like, Chloe, you, go with your sister, the other one. And so they all run, the two of them run in there, and then they run back out, Daddy, there's somebody in the room, in the corner. No, there's not. The alarm's on, the house is locked, we're the only ones in here. No, Daddy, they got in before the alarm. They are in there, in the corner. I'm like, no, they're not. And so we go in there, and sure enough, I flip on the light. What is it? We have a standing lamp that's in the corner. In there. I'm like, baby, it's just a lamp. And it's very intentional that I write, light makes fear manageable. You're going to have moments where you're still afraid. Because you're going to have moments where darkness and these moments still arise, and there is going to be fear. Now, my daughters still have moments where they go into a dark room and they're like, oh, whatever. I don't know what the deal is. They're girls. It's weird. And I'm sure boys do the same thing, but like our girls are just like, oh, bugs, dark, Daddy, save us. I'm like, yay. But what the light does is it opens up the thing. We go, that's just a lamp. That's just a hard time at work. That's just this one singular fight within my relationship. That's just my kid being a kid. That's just that relationship that ended. It's not going to wreck me forever, just in this moment. God, I can move forward because I'm trusting in you, because your light gives me hope that there's better things yet to come. Another thing that light does is light shows the depth of darkness. There's a friend of mine who attended Forefront for a number of years before they ended up having to move away. And so we were catching up over lunch not too long ago, and they were sharing with me after they had gone through a lot of addiction, a couple of times of trying to end their own life. They had been, clean and everything worked out for a while now, and they shared across the tables. We're just sitting there. You know what? Everybody, when I was in that darkest part, they told me that it was really bad. And I kept looking at them going, it's not that bad because I'm here and getting out of it's right here. He's like, but being clean and looking at that and walking with God, he's like, I've realized that where I was at and where God has brought me from has given me so much clarity. And when you begin to walk in light, you get to see things for what they are. And right now, you may be in a situation that you don't think is that bad. The problem is you don't think it's that bad. Because in the darkness, we can't really see a whole lot. Try walking, even if you know your house. Flip off every light, bring down every blind, and just try to wander through that house without putting your arms out. You're going to get hurt. No matter how good you think you're, be like, no, I've memorized none of the steps because you're super OCD. You know how many steps it is from your stairs to your kitchen and what angles and whatnot. I'm not saying that's me, but you're going to hurt yourself because in the darkness you cannot see what's in front of you. Light shines and lets you know how the depth of darkness. And light begins to let you see what you cannot. I don't know, how many of you guys have ever used binoculars before? Let's check out all the creepers in the room. All right. Just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I mean, maybe. I don't know. Never mind. Nothing. And so, they're all bird watchers. So, using binoculars, you want to see something that's far off. All right? And so when you use binoculars and you begin to look at things that are far away, as you have binoculars on, what can you not see? That which is around you. You see, oftentimes in life, we want to look out and we see somebody who just, they have it together. We go, I want that. We miss all the steps that they took to get to that place. It's very, we talk about this, the Instagram highlights of where it went, and we go, whoa, man, that life. Or we see on Facebook the pretty, picture, and we talked about that a couple weeks ago, how that family photo is a bunch of malarkey, that it took, 2 hours of angry fights to get that one. Yeah, jazz hands. And so you see these things far off, and you have the binoculars on, and you're measuring your life based on what you see way down there, and you're missing all the things around you, and we have these blind spots. And what light does is it sets down these binoculars and this, because we all are planning for the future. You already have, if you have a kid, you planned out their college, you picked out their onesie that has the university, already on, you got it ready to go, and you have your plan for retirement and all these things. But what about what's happening right here? Those things we ignore because we're so focused on the future that we miss what's happening here. See, light begins to see what we cannot. But all of us have every intention of moving forward. We want to do what's right. We want to be honorable. None of us wake up in the morning, at least I don't think so. I've never met anybody that I've spoken with that wakes up and you go, man, I just want to be a jerk today. Like, nobody chooses that, okay? Now, there are some people that, like, honestly, and if you're honest with yourself, you might be that person, like, while I don't choose that, I understand. You would never say it out loud, but that might be you. But every person has somewhere deep down inside of them the intention of getting better, of being more honorable, of being more loving, of being more kind. Way deep down, even the most ornery and stubborn of us have a desire to move forward and be better than we are today, that a better version of ourselves will be coming forth tomorrow. See, but that all lies within intentions. And intentions don't do a whole lot. You see, when we walk in light, it's motion, it's movement, it's steps, not intention, that determines your and my destination. You can have all the intentions of the world of following God and being honorable and being loving and growing in your faith. In being generous, you go, I'll be generous if I have more money. If you're not generous with hardly any money, you're just going to be just as not generous with a lot. If you're not loving and kind with very few relationships, when you get a bunch, you're not going to all of a sudden magically be more kind. It is not moving with just sheer intention of what we could have. It's moving and taking steps that begins to determine how we will move forward and where the ultimate destination is as we walk in the light of God. And so really the question is, do you want deep down to live that life in the light with God? And if you do, you need to take steps into the light. Would you pray with me?